Hey guys, it's Andy. I'm glad to be with you again this week as we continue our series of God Time devotionals, working our way through the book of Mark. Today we're in Mark chapter 14, beginning in verse 32. Now, I just have to tell you that one of my favorite parts of my job is that I get to meet with everyone in our church who gets baptized. Before every baptism celebration, I teach a class about the meaning and significance of baptism. And actually, just talking about this, I should mention that this Sunday we're going to have a baptism celebration, and it's going to be our first one in the new worship center. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you'll be able to be there in person or watch online. But before every baptism celebration, I teach a class about the meaning and significance of baptism. And after each person who's going to be baptized has met and shared their faith story with one of our staff members, they then meet with me and I have a chance to videotape their testimony. I love getting to hear people of all ages talk about what their relationship with Jesus means to them. However, as much as I love this particular part of my job, I have become increasingly concerned over the last few years about a trend I've observed in the testimonies of people who I've been videotaping. Now, it isn't that what they've been saying to me is wrong, it's that what they've been saying to me is incomplete. Over and over, as I'm sitting across from a person and we're recording their testimony, I've been hearing those who are preparing for baptism tell me that the reason they became a Christian was so that God could help make their life better. Whether it is students saying that being a Christian helps them in school, or adults saying that Jesus helps them to have more confidence and peace in their relationships, both at work and in their families, everybody's like, if I follow God, my life is going to be better. Now, I want to be clear that this isn't everyone who gets baptized, but I've heard so many people say that the reason they are glad they became a Christian is because following Jesus makes everything in life better. And well, that's sort of true. And I guess in a very real way, it's true. Jesus saves our souls. And because of Jesus, someday we have the hope that we'll go to heaven and not to hell like we deserve. So Jesus ultimately does make everything better. And yet, to just say that Jesus makes everything better is an incomplete version of the gospel story. Here's what I mean. When people say that being a Christian makes everything better, it really depends on what you mean by better and what your timeline is. Because from a certain perspective, being a follower of Jesus will not make everything better. At least not if what you mean by making everything better is that following Jesus will make everything easier in life. Now, why am I making such a big deal about this? It's because as disciples of Jesus, we have to be sure that we understand that we are prepared to follow Jesus' example. And Jesus' life was not full of an unbroken string of success and acceptance, like everything up and to the right. No, in Luke chapter 6, verse 40, Jesus said, the student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher. If we want to be like our teacher, if we really want Jesus to be our role model, then we must understand, and more than that, we need to be prepared mentally and emotionally, physically, spiritually. We need to be prepared to suffer just like Jesus did, even when we don't deserve it. I guess you could say, especially when we don't deserve it. It's important for us to notice how much Jesus suffered while he was here on earth. I say that because sometimes people think that when they're experiencing pain in their life, it's God's way of punishing them for some sin they committed in the past, or that he's simply angry with them for reasons that they don't fully understand. But that's not right. Jesus never did anything wrong. He never sinned. And yet Jesus suffered a great deal. In fact, it was prophesied that he would be known as the man of sorrows. And that is an apt name for Jesus given the life that he lived. When you're in the midst of suffering, how will you respond to God? One commentator put it this way: pain tends to make people better or bitter. Another said, the same sun that hardens the clay also melts the butter. So, how will you respond to God in the midst of your pain and your suffering? You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you will respond to what happens to you. So, the question is, how will you respond to God? Will you have faith that God is with you and that He can be trusted even in the midst of your pain? Even as you go through your own Garden of Gethsemane kind of experience and know that suffering is just around the corner? In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus came to his Father in prayer and provides us with a model for how we can pray in the midst of our own suffering. Jesus recognized the pain he was about to endure while also acknowledging his Father's power to change his circumstances. He asked, Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. When we face times of suffering, it's appropriate for us to ask our Father in heaven to rescue us from the suffering we're about to endure. But at the same time, we must be willing to submit to God's authority over us. If Jesus could endure suffering that he didn't deserve, then as a Christian, I'm confident that we, as his followers, can endure it too, because he's promised that he will never leave us or forsake us, that he'll be with us to the end of the age. Lord, I pray for those who are watching today that as they go through their own season of pain and suffering, that they'll know that you're with them and that the pain they're enduring, the suffering they're going through is not a sign that you're angry with them or that you're disappointed in them because of some sin in the present or in the past. But sometimes in this world, we're going to have trouble. But as Jesus, you said, we can take heart because you have overcome the world. We love you, Jesus. Be with us throughout this week. Amen. God bless you guys.